Hello, good night, good evening, good morning to Hockey Nation Live. This is your Detroit Red Wings report from Pucks and Dreams, Michael DeVellano. The Red Wings ended the preseason or exhibition season with a 5-1 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. In short, not much to report on this other than it was kind of the last shot for some players to be seen, and particularly the goalies who were not up to the task of facing William Nylander and Austin Matthews in particular. Matthews and Nylander each getting 2 goals in this affair. P.S. Juder did start the scoring off, so that probably doesn't hurt the fact that he's still with the team, with the Detroit Red Wings at the end. We'll talk about roster cuts in another video. Check that out. But in the meantime, this really saw kind of a rough affair for Detroit. Didn't seem too much in it, but this is the 8th game of the preseason. It's an insanely long preseason this year, probably 2 to 3 games extra more than normal. But as Coach Derek Lalonde said, it was the first time that he's been the coach during training camp, so he wasn't too sad. Plus, there's a lot of roster competition. We will see when the roster is trimmed down. There'll probably be some young players that normally would get an opportunity here, but they're going to be very patient. They can afford to be patient with the depth that Steve Yzerman's built around them. So not too much to report in this. 19 shots on goals for the Detroit Red Wings. The Leafs had 26, but losing 5-1, it was really a tale of the 2 backups. Not even the backups; these are 4th and 5th string goalies. So not too worried. It wasn't like Ville Husso was in. It wasn't like Nedeljkovic was in. This was really the way to wrap. So that basically, speaking of wrap, the 8 games preseason, Detroit finishes 3-5, which in and of itself, doesn't really mean much. Obviously, if we take a look at the standings, you'll see that they kind of finished middle of the pack. Last night's game, just not much to report other than the goal from P.S. Suter. Adam Ernie and Gustav Lindstrom get assists on this goal. Nothing too exciting otherwise from Detroit. And if you take a look at the stats, though, for Red Wings, I think there's one number that kind of stands out to me. Well, maybe 2, which are the goals for and the goals against. Detroit only scored 20 goals for in 8 games. Now, again, mixed lineup, of course. But the biggest thing, I think, is the fact that they only allowed 22 goals against. And that includes the 5 goals yesterday. So prior to yesterday's game, they'd only let in, 17 goals, if my math is correct, in 7 games. So that's under 3 goals a game, which I think is where they got to get to. They've been well over that for the last number of years. And I think that's a promising sign. If you listen to all the talk really around camp was improving the team defensively, and I think that they have definitely accomplished that. We're going to see Moritz Seider. We're going to see Philip Hronek paired with Olli Maatta and Moritz Seider paired with Ben Chiarot. Just the top 4 alone is a big improvement. Now, a lot of people thought that you'd see Simon Edvinsson. Will you see Simon Edvinsson, or will he be sent to the AHL? I think he'll be sent to the AHL personally. I've said that throughout camp, that it looks like he needs work. He's a little bit raw. He is not Moritz Seider, and he's not where Moritz Seider was at the same age. He's a very intriguing prospect because he has great size, he's got great skating, and he's got offensive instincts. But defensively, he is raw. There's a lot to be desired there, I think. And there's a lot of turnovers in some of the games he's played. So I would be shocked to see, when we take a look at the final roster on Monday, if Simon Edvinsson is on it, I'd be a little bit surprised. You can see the lineup yesterday was really a last shot for a couple guys. Andreas Johansson, I kind of think he would stay. He played 20 minutes yesterday. He's been really good. He can skate really well, but there's not much offense to his game. Gustav Lindstrom, I think, has the number 5-6 spot locked up. Jared McIsaac continues to progress after having so much time missed to injury the last 2 years. I think he's looked pretty solid, but is he overwhelming? I don't know. He's not going to crack top 4. He's not going to knock out Gustav Lindstrom. I think Robert Hagg is probably ahead of him, so it's going to be tough for him to stick in lineup. I think he'll go to the AHL. Wyatt Newpower definitely going to the AHL, I believe. Vero, the Finnish defenseman, I thought looked real good, but he's going to be in tough. I think that he'll be in the AHL. And then Jordan Osterley, I would imagine, would be kind of like the 6-7 defenseman in the Red Wings. So I think a lot of the guys that played last night, you're going to see will go down. On the forward lines, this is probably a last shot for a few guys. Jonathan Berggren, I think Jonathan Bergen's good enough to play in the NHL. I mean, that seems obvious to me. However, there's so much depth in Detroit. That's going to be tough. So this might be the last chance to see him. Pontus Anderson came over with a little bit of fanfare. I don't see him sticking. Zadina, I think's locked in. Verana's locked in. I think Pia Studer's done enough to stay. Taro Hirose, I just don't see sticking. He just does not do enough to stay. He's probably going to be a career AHL player from the looks of it. Giovanni Smith isn't tough. You're pulling for Gio. He's tough. He's got a little bit of skill, not an amazing skater, not super high end. I think unfortunately, he might be the odd man out here. He's going to have to clear waivers. Cross Hannes is at a great camp, but I just don't see him sticking around. I think he'll eventually go to the AHL. And Adam Ernie, it looks like, has kind of got a fourth line spot locked up with the team. And I think Joe Veleno will be there at the end of the day, too, in the NHL. So, but let's wait and see what happens. Interesting wrap. What do you think of the preseason? Are the 22 goals against in 8 games a positive sign for Detroit, even at the expense of the offense? But I think they're going to have a fair amount of offense. I mean, they've got 3 really good scoring lines, maybe 4 if you count in Veleno, Soderblom, Ernie. If that ends up being your 4th line, that's because the first 3 lines we'll review this week. Well, we'll see tomorrow after the cuts. All right, well, this has been the HNL. Geez, it is NHL as well, though. The HNL Network report on the Detroit Red Wings. We will follow up when there are some roster moves and send players down to Grand Rapids, which we anticipate any point in time, and any of the waiver moves.